Naruto, FMA Brotherhood, Hunter x Hunter, Attack on Titan. Hold on, wait a second. Aaron just stomped out a bunch of kids a few weeks ago. Hey, are we still calling this a shonen? It's safe to say that I am an absolute shonen junkie. Many of them were my gateway into anime, and there are still plenty of the new ones that I still watch today. So when I found out that a new shonen with an interesting premise was being animated by Mappa Studios, of course I was immediately on board based off the first trailer alone. But as Jujutsu Kaisen continued airing, I found myself in love with the show. Even with only half of its season premiering, it was enough to be my favorite anime of 2020, and has slowly become my favorite new anime from the last few years. My first reason for my love of this anime is a rather obvious one, but it has to be said. This show's art and animation are absolutely stunning and easily some of the best of all anime from 2020. The same goes undoubtedly for the fight scenes. They're impressively animated, extremely fluid, and the individual powers and abilities based upon the rules that the story has set in place thus far only make the fights even more engaging. Which leads me to my next point about the power system. The Jujutsu power system is one of the more interesting power systems I've seen in recent memory. You can tell it's definitely inspired by Hunter x Hunter's Nen system, but Jujutsu does enough to stand out on its own. Curse energy, techniques, domains, all of these aspects and others come together to make each sorcerer's powers impactful. Take Gojo's power for example. There is an infinity that exists between us. It's not that you can't touch me, however the closer you get to me, the slower you go. Infinity is everywhere, and my Jujutsu brings it forward in reality, thus making me basically unfucking touchable. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I think I have a fairly basic understanding of how your power works. Hold on, you can do what? That's like the coolest thing I ever heard! What the fuck? Whether it's Gojo's infinity, Naname's ability to forcibly create a weak point on opponents, or Mahito's ability to change the physical appearance of himself and others by manipulating their souls, Jujutsu Kaisen keeps its characters' powers fresh and interesting, and strategy plays a big role in how they're used, which in turn makes the fights even more interesting. Another twist that I found to be pretty cool was how the series takes the trope of anime characters revealing every minute detail about their powers and makes it so that explaining the inner workings of one's technique to their opponent actually increases its effectiveness. Now let's talk about the characters. I like just about every character in this show, especially Gojo, Nobara, and Yuji. Gojo definitely gives off Kakashi vibes, and I mean shit, he's got his eyes covered and teaching a group of teenagers very reminiscent of Naruto's Team 7. He is hilarious and an absolute badass, revered even by high-level spirits so much that they know that they can't beat him. They have to try to seal him in this prison box thing. Overall, he's just a fun character with much more to him that I'm sure we just haven't seen yet. Nobara is a character I can definitely see being a rather polarizing one given her loud mouth and attitude, but I personally adore her. My favorite moment of hers thus far was when this character here was spouting bullshit about Mai's sad backstory and how female sorcerers are supposed to behave, and you know what Nobara said to that? I missed the part where that's my fucking problem. Fuck Mai, fuck gender norms, and then proceeds to knock this bitch in the head with a squeaky hammer. Nobara is someone who is shown to be about her shit. And Yuji so far has been a great main character who's already developing this early on in the series. His breakdown on the verge of death and his realization of how far out of his league he was is some of the best characterization in the show thus far. He is constantly being questioned either by himself or others that caused him to go through real genuine change and develop as a person. It's rare for a shonen character to be one of my favorite characters in an anime, but Yuji is an exception and I think he has the potential to be something great. I also kinda like the spirits, whether it's Captain Magma, the cursed spirit who speaks backwards so I have to pause the show to read the subtitles anytime she says anything, or Tomura Shigaraki. They all have cool designs and abilities. I don't feel much for any of them at the moment because they're all dickheads who deserve the lethal injection, but I am curious to see how the show handles these guys and other cursed spirits going forward. And how could I forget about Sukuna? Even at his current level, he has proven that he is indeed the shit. He isn't Kurama, he is not here to be anyone's friend, and he is not to be relied upon for absolutely anything. He is an evil douchebag who needs to die and should be treated as such. Jujutsu Kaisen is just filled with a great cast of characters, many with their own compelling stories, motives, and ideas. A story is always better when even the side characters are captivating and not just the central characters. And I hope the other students don't get the Konoha 11 experience and cast aside so the main character can do literally everything. Cause seriously, most of these fucking losers were irrelevant by the end of the series. Another aspect of the show I didn't expect to be as good as it is the comedy. This show can be genuinely funny when it chooses to be. Even in an anime this gruesome, it does a great job of seamlessly transitioning from a darker mood to a lighter one pretty easily, even in the same episode. There are plenty of moments throughout the show that I found myself laughing out loud. Is it possible that I myself am a complete fucking idiot with a low barrier to what I find funny? Potentially. But many of the character interactions, jokes, and gags felt like some of the best I've seen in recent anime. Overall, Jujutsu Kaisen is a show that does basically everything right. It doesn't do anything particularly original, rather it takes concepts and ideas from shonens of the past, puts a twist on it, and makes them its own. I plan on picking up the manga once this season is over, as I've heard nothing but good things about it, and I hope this series continues being adapted the way it is, because I do think that this show is something special. But that's all I have for today's video. If you're new, make sure to like and subscribe. This has been your number one hero, and I'm out. Peace.